thought I'd do a quick video on canning chicken. You've seen me can venison a couple years in a row, and I told you it was basically the same setup. So I'm gonna quarter up some of these chickens I've got frozen here, and we're gonna can them. Now the timing is about the same, and the pressures are about the same, and the actual canning process is basically the same as when I do the venison. The time, the pressure, all that. I do add a little more water to the jar than I do with the venison, just because the chicken doesn't have doesn't give out the moisture content. Now a lot of times when I would grow these chickens, I would skin them and quarter them right then and there in the field. You know, and that works. A little time consuming, but I mean it does okay. We made that chicken plucker. I've got videos online if you want to see it. We made that chicken plucker, and we can kill a chicken, scald it, pluck it, gut it, and everything in, 3 minutes total. 2.5, 3 minutes. And it's in the bag and already in the cool, already being rinsed off and in the freezer. So that's what we did with a lot of our chickens, and I do have some that are already skinned and quartered. So I'm going to quarter this chicken up right here. Kind of show you how I quarter them up. In previous years, I did thighs, the wings, the legs, thigh drumstick combination and the wings. I canned those, and it's excellent. It's really tender, and the bones are really the bones just crush right up. You can feed the bones to the dogs now when you do that. But we don't eat a lot of the thighs and the drumsticks, and if I do, I'll put them on the grill or I will fry them. We use a lot of chicken breasts, different recipes, so that's really where I want. So I'm not going to spend my time canning the legs and thighs this year. It just we didn't eat a lot of them. I gave a lot of them away. They were appreciated. People loved them, but for us, it just doesn't. We don't use it as much. We don't use that dark meat in the canning operation as much. If somebody has some comments or some ideas on how to use it, please put them on there, and I'll gladly read them and listen to what your thoughts are and how you do it. But for us, it's really the chicken breast, and then I would just cook the dark meat on the grill in the summer and have some friends and family over, and we'll throw them on the grill and barbecue them, or just grill them, or whatever, So next clip you're going to see is I'm going to try to get the camera up here so you can see me get the breasts and everything off of this chicken, so we can can pasture-raised chickens that I grew, that you've seen in my video. What I want to do is I just want to get the breasts off of this, and then I'm going to separate the quarters. Now everybody has their own way of doing this, and that's fine. When we skinned and quartered them, I did the thighs first when I quartered them up. Now the skin was off them at that time, so I just did the thighs first. You just pull the thigh away, and you'll see that little bone down in there, right there, and it just pops out, and you can get right underneath there and come right through it, and you can get your thigh. Now these birds all averaged 5 pounds. Some were a little more, some were less, but say overall average, I did 5 pounds. It's nice thigh drumstick combination. Now I will vacuum seal those up. I'm just putting them in a Ziploc baggie, just strictly for storage right now. Come right up underneath here, grab the wing, get that skin away, and you'll see it'll just pop right out. These put a little take those, you just put some flour and some seasonings together, and you'll have your wings. Nice meaty. But basically what you're left with now on this carcass is just your breast meat. Now, I'm gonna can these, so I really don't want skin on them. So you just grab it, pull it over. It's got a little freezer burn on it. I'm not too awfully worried about that. I mean, the canning will take care of most of that. These were my buddy's birds. I brung mine home and I freezer vacuum packed them up. He just used a freezer bag on his. So find that breastbone, come right down the side of it, and then just follow the rib cage right on down. So now there's a nice big meaty breast. Probably not quite a pound, but dang close to it. And then remove the other side, same deal. Just come right on down till you get onto that wing bone rib cage there. There's this piece of gristle right here. Try to cut on the outside of it. So you leave that right on the carcass. Now it's been a year for me since I've done this, so I'm a little bit rusty. But after you do 200 of them, you get pretty quick. So there's another breast, fairly well cleaned up. And you can see on the carcass, I mean, this is all bone. There's some little meat here and there. That's just a big chunk of ice. I like to cut the meat when it's still somewhat frozen. If you do it this way, you don't lose a lot. You really don't. It's all carcass weight. So that's how I quarter them up. I actually have one upstairs in the cast iron Dutch oven in the oven right now. I guess doing it this way works all right because you can leave the skin on the thighs and drumsticks, and makes it nice for grilling it or doing fried chicken. Should just be able to find that socket right there and come in and just trim around it and trim it right off for your wings. I didn't know he actually had chickens left. So I wanted to get them and get them canned so I can get full use of them and not waste them. And again, you can see there's not too much left. Here's a fat one. So we had 8 weeks, I think it was, if I remember correctly, when we butchered them. Get out of there. You can see that just separates, and it'll pop right off. I should have videoed when we skinned them with the feathers on how we did that. I was happy with how it worked out. Just put that big side of the breast towards you, and you can go right to that tail, and just work your knife right around the cartilage. Three of these breasts in a jar, a quart jar, but I don't think you can get 4 in. Now when you can them, I mean, they're fully cooked, they're super tender. You can take them right out of the jar and cut them up, heat them up, do whatever you want. Alright, well now we're gonna put the jars in put the chicken in the canning jars and start the canning process. If you watch my venison canning video, it's gonna be the same process. The only difference is I don't really use a lot of the marinades or spices. I just use some pickling salt. Pickling salt is non-iodized salt is the difference. At our sea level, it's 12 pounds of pressure for 90 minutes for a quart jar of on-boned chicken, deboned chicken. So when you start this on your own, find out your sea level and get that conversion chart, because that's really important. My canners only use 5, 10, or 15 pounds. They're just weighted canners. They don't have a gauge. So you can use marinades, seasoning, spice, but any of the McCormick's marinades, prepackaged marinades, will work just fine. The only problem with doing it now is then you're kind of roped in to the flavor of that chicken as to what you're going to use it for in what dish. So I just choose to pack it raw. In the past, all I've used is water to add water to the chicken. This year I'm going to use some unsalted chicken broth. The reason I went with the unsalted is because I want to add as little salt as possible, and I don't want to have to, you know, have my chicken all too salty. So right now I got the jars in the can. Here's my chicken broth, getting that warm. Here's the water to boil the lids in. Those got to boil for 10 minutes. Here's my canner, and there's the jars in there, just getting warm, getting the water in there warm. There's only about, you know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches of water in the bottom of this. It's more than enough. You'll end up dumping water out any more than that. So the next step will be to get the jars out, and I'll show you that in a minute. While I was waiting for the lids to boil and the jars to warm up and the broth to warm up, I went ahead and packaged the other whole chickens I had left over. And all I did was take them out of the Ziploc bags and put them in the vacuum sealer. So now we're going to take them out of the cooker. We're going to set them over here. Now, the reason I do that in a lot of ways is it preheats that rubber gasket. By sitting there doing that, this gasket gets nice and warm and pliable. And when I start my pressure, it's going to seal up a lot faster. We're just going to set them out. Hello, just a quick commercial break. If you like my videos, you like my content, please subscribe. But don't forget to hit the notification bell so when new videos come out, you'll get notified. Thank you. You don't have to do this to the jars. I choose to. That's all. Jars are already clean. They're going to be sterilized in the canning process anyways. So I'm not doing it for that. I'm just thinking if they're warmed up, they're going to seal better and cook more efficiently. Now, like I said before, this is strictly generally just me and my wife. So, you know, 2 of these chicken breasts will get us 2 meals. So, and I put one in like that. Oops. One end thick side down, and the other end thin side down. You can probably fit 3 breasts of these big size breasts in a canning jar. Now, if you don't have access to pasture raised chickens, you know, wait till your local grocery store has their chickens on sale, and then go buy a bunch of them. It's going to be just fine. You know, because personally, I know if you go buy some pasture-raised chicken down at the farmer's market or something, man, it's gonna cost you a lot. Now, I had just 2 breasts left over, so I went ahead and put 3 in one jar. Now, this book right here is one source. It's the Ball and Blue Book Guide to Preserving. This is one source for a lot of recipes, and it covers meat, jams, jellies, everything. The internet, a lot of good information on there too. So don't let this scare you. Take your time, find a canner, find jars, Craigslist, wherever. Catch them on sale. Directions say a tablespoon of salt per jar, and that to me is just a lot. So I'm only going to put half a tablespoon in. It's more than I put in the past, really. In the past, I just put a little sprinkle in. So that's all there is to that. Now, since I'm using chicken broth this year, you want your meat all the way up to within 1 inch of the jar or lower, no higher. This is what's called a headspace gauge, and it just has different steps: 1/4 inch, half, 3/4, and 1 inch. So you can see I'm a little bit high right here, but I'm gonna fix that in a minute. So I'm within 3/4 of an inch. The rest of these are down well enough. So we're gonna put a little bit of moisture in. There's going to be some moisture that's going to come out of this chicken broth anyways, so with this chicken breast. So let's just be conservative about it. That's just a canning funnel. Now you want to take your headspace gauge and you want to go in and look for air bubbles. Just go into the sides, kind of twist it around. You want all the air out. See, there's an air bubble right there. So just bring it down, twist it, and it comes right out. I put the lid back on the pressure cooker just to keep the heat in there and the water boiling. So take a good clean wet rag and clean off the lip. This is really important. Any sort of defect on that lip, whether it be a seasoning or whatever, will not allow it to seal. Now, it's not a bad thing because you can just eat it. Instead of storing it, just put it in the refrigerator when it's done and eat it. It's not the end of the world. Take your magnet, pick up a lid, place it on the jar. this is the tricky part right here. Put your ring on, and I take and I snug it down and I back it off until you can feel a little bit of slack in it. You want that lid to vibrate in there so it lets the pressure out of the jar, because otherwise the jar will explode. So, boom, tighten it up, and I back it off until I think that lid can vibrate. I don't know if there's any tried or true method of measuring that. I just know you want it loose. There they are, set right up in there. You can see the little dimple poking up. That's what you want right now. Put your lid on. And now the trick is just to wait for it to, for the steam to start coming out of this little hole and seal up right there. That's what's called a fuse. That's for overpressure. If it gets too much pressure in there, that thing will burn off or pop. Now what I wanted to show you on this lid is the dimple. You see it now. Push it in, it stays in. That's why you do not do that. You want that to pop in on its own. If you push it in, it stays in, it's a false seal. You don't know. That's your indicator. So you want that, make sure them are up. You don't ever push that in on your own. While they're in there and they're cooking, I let this thing here vent for 5 to 10 minutes before I put the weight on. And then once it starts jiggling, that's when you set your timer, not before. So I'm just waiting for this thing to start jiggling, which it should do really any second now. And then you just want it to tinkle a couple times a minute for an hour and a half. You hear it or see it vibrating and chattering. That's what you're looking for. Well, again, when I take these out, I'll show them to you. But this isn't that hard to do. And in the summer, you know, or with the venison, you're in the middle of the hunting season, or in the summer you're having good weather and you want to get your chickens processed up, throw them in a bag, throw them in the freezer, the ones that you want to can. And then on a cold winter day, when right now we got 50-60 mile an hour wind gusts outside, it's 20 degrees, this is something to do inside. Doesn't take that long. You defrost your chickens a little bit ahead of time, cut them up, put them up there in the afternoon. And this will extend the time that the chicken can be preserved, or the venison can be preserved. If there's any questions or comments, at the end of the video, leave them. Hit the notification bell, subscribe to my channel, leave comments, tell me about your experience, or ask questions that I might have missed. Thank you. All right, well, it's been an hour and a half or so since the timer went off, and I shut it off and just let it cool down naturally. You don't want to do anything until it cools down naturally. Now, she's still a little warm, but I'm gonna check this. See, there's no pressure in there, so it's safe to pop the top. just want to take them out nice and slow. Look at that, still bubbling. Ain't that weird? None of the jars appear broken. The lighting's kind of hard, but you can see that most of the lids are sunk in. This one back here is not. If you can see it or not. Yeah, see the dimple? The dimple's up. Don't touch it. Let it suck in naturally. The dimple's up on that one. Looks like it's sucked in on those. So for right now, I'll come back later on this evening or tomorrow morning and make sure the ones that are popped in are good and sealed, and we'll put them up. If there's any that didn't seal, I'll take them upstairs and put them in the fridge, and we'll eat them in a day or two. But you see how easy it was. So any questions, comments, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so you'll see when my new videos come up. Let me hear from you. Thank you. Okay, I got the chicken out of the canner, and for some reason I had 3 quarts that did not seal, which no biggie, I'll just eat them. That's the benefit of it. But I wanted to show you a false seal to show you what that looks like. Look at these 4 cans here, 4 jars here. You notice there's no dimple. This one you can see the dimple on it, and this one you can really see the hump. You know, it's popped up. Look at this one right here. That dimple is down. And if you just look at it, it looks sealed just like those. It's really good. But a trick I learned is I just take a fingernail and I click it. Nice metallic ring. Come to this one. Dull. Not a very sharp tone at all. So that tells me that was sealed. That is a false seal. Oh, look, it just popped up. So if you was just to look at it, you'd say, oh, it's sealed. Take your ring off and you put it on the shelf. You come back and your food's going to be all moldy and junk. But because I caught it, I'm just going to go ahead and eat it. So here they go. They don't look appealing. I'm going to tell you that right now. It really does not look appealing at all. But they taste awesome, and they're quick, easy meal prep. Dice them up, put them with some rice and some sauce, shred them up, barbecue chicken, salads, whatever you want. They're really good. Okay, well, any questions or comments, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Plenty of videos coming. Thank you. Completion.